Hello everyone, I'm Adiola, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Convos with Diddy Reels. I really appreciate you guys, and I also want to thank God for making this show possible, right? And today what we're going to be talking about is, it's going to be an interesting topic, a topic that I feel like it's often overlooked and ignored, but it needs to be talked about, and that topic is called Cervical Cancer Awareness and HPV. And I'm so glad to have you here, Dr. Sandra, to talk about that with me. I'm so happy to have you here. But before we go into that, because I know a lot of you might not know what it is, by the end of the show, you will have a very good idea of what this is. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background epidemiology and just a little bit of background facts to help you guys understand this. So, according to a global analysis study performed in 2018, about 570,000 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer, and 311,000 deaths occurred from the disease. It is the fourth most common cancer in women and the leading cause of cancer-related death in women in Eastern, Western, Middle, and Southern Africa. Cervical cancer continues to be a major public health problem affecting middle-aged women, particularly those in less resourced countries. Therefore, this is why I believe it needs to be addressed. And what better time to talk about this than Cervical Cancer Awareness Month? And Sandra, I just want to thank you, Dr. Sandra. I want to thank you. She's a pharmacist. She's a women's health advocate. And I just want to thank her for coming on this show to talk about this with us because it definitely needs to be addressed. So Sandra, go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Jola. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited to be here. Like Jola said, my name is Dr. Sandra Oyibo.
Yes.
I am a pharmacist by profession, and I'm also the founder of My Cervix Story. The mission of My Cervix Story is basically to promote awareness about cervical cancer and HPV, which is why I'm so excited to be here today to talk about those two topics because that's really my life's mission. I'm really excited to do this today, so let's get started. I'm ready.
Awesome. Look at you, they said feel at home, ma'am. Yes, feel at home, relax, feel at home. yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you. So as you guys know the deal, we do encourage our audience to please engage during the session. At the end of the session, Dr. Sandra, she would be picking 2 lucky winners to win some awesome gifts. So comment, ask your questions, use the question box below and type your questions in there and we would address that. So to begin, Dr. Sandra, for those on this live session that have no idea what cervical cancer is, can you please tell us what is cervical cancer?
Of course. So cervical cancer is basically cancer of the cervix. So you and I, every woman out there has a cervix. And a lot of people, you might have heard about a cervix before, but you don't know what it is. It's basically the ending of the uterus. So it usually comes in play during childbirth because it's actually the cervix that dilates that allows a child to come into the world, basically. So that's, if you're a mom, if you've had friends that had a baby, you've probably had the cervix before. It's a very small part of the female anatomy, but it's a very important part. So when there are cancerous cells that grow on the cervix through either mutation or infection or whatever it is, that's what happens when a person gets cervical cancer.
So basically abnormal cells growing in your cervix.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't want any of that. What causes what causes it and how is it transmitted?
Okay, that's a good question. Basically, just like every other cancer we have out there, there's a lot of different cancers, breast cancer, you name it. There's definitely a genetic disposition. So either it's a family trait, maybe your family line, people have cancer. Unfortunately, that means that you do have a chance of getting cancer. And genetics plays a role, but the only thing that makes cervical cancer different from a lot of other cancers out there is because it is caused by something called HPV. you might have not heard about it, but HPV is a sexually transmitted infection. So that's the long and short of the story. It's transmitted by sexual intercourse, and it's one of the major reasons. So about 70 to 80% of people get cervical cancer just by getting this HPV infection.
And how is that you did say it's a sexually transmitted infection, right? Thank you so much. So this is usually prevalent in women, right? So do men get it as well? Oh gosh,
so men can get cervical cancer, right? Because they don't have a cervix, but they can get HPV.
They can get HPV.
Yeah, they can get HPV. So that's very important to know, because sometimes when we try to talk about HPV, men are like, oh, I don't have to worry about this because, I can't get it. But that is not true. Men actually get HPV, and they actually are able to spread it more because they don't have the symptoms like women do. So women have like symptoms that you might have, like where you have regular issues, but men don't have the symptoms anymore, which makes it easier to be spread. So both men and women can get HPV through sexual contact, but only a woman can get cervical cancer because only women have a cervix.
Oh, nice. So men are basically carriers. Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see someone asked what's the full meaning of HPV.
That's
a good question. So HPV is human papillomavirus. There are various strains of HPV. There's 1,000 different strains. The most important thing to know is that not everyone that has HPV might have cervical cancer. So there are other things you can get from HPV. You can get like genital warts. Some people don't even have symptoms from HPV at all. If your immune system is strong enough, you're able to fight it off and nothing happens to you. But for some people, if you get the deadly strains, so those are strains 18 and 16, those are the strains of HPV that go on to cause cervical cancer and other HPV-related cancers.
Awesome. Thank you. Someone said people, they were asking a question, people inherit cancer?
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, I know. So just like how we're all genetically made up, so your mom and your dad, they all bring parts of them together to make you. So if there's a genetic mutation that happens somewhere along your bloodline, and maybe your grandma, your mom, your auntie, your second cousin had a cancer of any form, that automatically puts you and your bloodline at a risk of cancer. You might not get it. No one in your family, years time may ever get it. But just because there's already that risk of genetic mutation in your bloodline, it means that someone at some point might have that same mutation and actually have cancer as well.
Awesome. Thank you. What are some early signs and symptoms of cervical cancer, and what are the mortality and survival rate like? Do you mind?
That's a good question. So the bad thing about cervical cancer is the signs that women get when they have these early symptoms could be signs of anything. So vaginal itching, bleeding, in between periods, discharge. Those are signs that can happen for basic things like a yeast infection, bacterial infection. So it's like common things that a lot of people just say, it's going to go away on its own. I'm not going to bother about it. So that's why it becomes very dangerous. So if you're not checking on these little things that you might have, or not having regular checkups, or not following up, the little things, our body has a very good way of telling us something's wrong. And if we dismay it, it's hard to know if it's actually something small or it's actually a big thing, So the symptoms are like little things that you would not even imagine, like bloating, discharge, just simple things that could be as a result of something simple.
Yeah, like it might have like a yeast infection, thinking
Exactly.
it's a yeast infection, but not knowing that there's more to it. Yes, thank you, Sandra. So which takes me to my next question. Can this be prevented? And if yes, how do we prevent it?
So when we talk about prevention of cervical cancer, for me, 3 things come to mind. So the first thing is HPV vaccine. Like I mentioned earlier, 70 to 80% of the cases of cervical cancer is actually caused by HPV. So the best way to prevent cervical cancer for me is to prevent getting HPV. So luckily, there are HPV vaccines available, and we're going to talk about that more later because the vaccines are available, they're tried and tested, and everyone who, their setting criteria you have to meet should be getting an HPV vaccine. So that's number 1. Number 2 is pap smears. If you're a woman and you're over the age of 25, you should be thinking about getting a pap smear. A lot of people don't want to get pap smears. I can tell you it can be, embarrassing to just go there to the gynecologist and have to sit down and have them check you. But these are things we have to do. We have to take charge of our health and making sure we're getting these regular screenings. The pap smear is a very, very simple procedure. It takes 5 minutes. Signing up to get the pap smear takes longer than the actual procedure. You just have to go there. The nurse or the gynecologist or whoever it is, pap smear. So P-A-P.
You said
P-A-P.
You're funny. You said pass what?
Pap. P-A-P. Pap.
Pap smear. Pap smear.
P-A-P. Smear. And S-M-E-A-R.
Yes. That is funny. Yeah, so I guess if you could just explain to them what the procedure is like, what they do in the procedure.
So you set up your appointment, and then when you get there, it's either a nurse or gynecologist or whoever you see, they basically have to take samples from your cervix. So you sit and you open up your legs, and they take like a little bristle brush, and they just basically just swab it. And that bristle collects cells from your cervix. When they get the cells, they take them to the lab, and then these cells are examined, and basically this pap smear shows if there are changes in your cervix. So this is important because there are stages before cancer. So there's actually 3 stages. There's stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So if you go for your pap smear and they're able to detect these things early, then you wouldn't even have to worry about, progressing to the cancerous stages, because the pap smear basically shows, okay, there's a change in the cell. It might not be cancer. It might not be nothing to worry about, but we need to check it up and follow on it. So that's why the pap smear is very important, because it is the only way we can actually see the changes that occur in the cells of your cervix. So number 1, no, it's I see someone saying it doesn't sound like fun.
It doesn't sound like fun.
Really? The first time I had it, I was like still there. She's like, oh, I'm done. I was like, oh, that was it. It basically, like 5 minutes is even giving it more time. It's very easy. Go in, swipe it out, and you're done. Okay, so if you guys have more questions about it, you can always contact me, talk to your doctor. I got you. Okay. Okay, so I talked about getting the HPV vaccine, number 1 way of preventing it. The second way is getting this pap smear done. Easy, 5 minutes. I will keep on saying it. It's a very easy procedure.
Yes.
The third thing goes without saying, practicing safe sex. HPV is transmitted through sexual contact. So the only way we can prevent it is practicing safe sex. We're all adults, we all have our lives to live, but it's the truth. Like, if we practice safe sex, a lot of infections can be, avoided. HPV, HIV, all the words, all the acronyms out there. So for me, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to that part, we all make our decisions, and, you make the decision that's best for you. But to be honest, that's the third way to prevent it. So HPV vaccines, PAP, pap smears, and practicing safe sex.
Absolutely. You guys heard that? So next time you're having sex and get caught up in the mood and you're like, I want to do it raw, remember these 2 phases. Practice.
I told you so.
Sex. Because if you're Nigerian, they would say eggs know the show for face, or a lot of these sexually transmitted infection, you can't see it in our faces. I mean, in the faces. So you just have to be careful. Think about the repercussions. Those are just important. Like Dr. Sandra said, I really appreciate you for covering that. And I'm going to share my first experience with the pap smear. I was kind of like, I was weird. I didn't know I had an idea what it was, but I didn't really know what it was when I was going in. This was when I was very young. And then when the gynecologist started trying to take the sample, I was like, what? What is going on here? It was kind of scary. But I mean, like she said, we will encourage you guys to get that. And how often should they be getting that, Sandra?
So that's a very good question. So the recommendations have actually changed. They literally changed like last year. So what the board is recommending now, so the board of gynecologists and doctors and pediatricians, they're recommending every 3 years. So after the age of 25, you should be getting a pap smear every 3 years. Just like every other thing, we each have our different clinical pictures.
Yes.
After your first pap smear, depending on the results. So if they check the first time and all is clear, nothing's going on, every 3 years should be your normal schedule. But if they check the first time and they find some irregular cells, some changes in your cells, something's going on, then it might be different for you. They might need to carry out a procedure to, take out the cells, do a treatment, and then your testing might be more frequent till they're able to clear you and say, okay, now you're fine. You don't need to do this regular testing. So, I mean, I say 3 years for general. If you do your test and you're okay, you keep on going back every 3 years. But if something's wrong, if there's a change, if there's whatever going on, they would need to do more frequent tests till they're clear with everything. I see someone saying 23. So before 2020, the recommendation was 23. So you're actually right. But they changed it because they started to see that people don't really get cervical cancer till like a little bit later. So testing earlier might not be that, might not be that efficient to have to go back starting from age 21 or 23. So you push it a little forward to age 25. So that way you're already getting older and like the cells would have already advanced, and that way they're clearly able to see these changes.
Thank you. So you mentioned HPV vaccine. I kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on that. How many dose series is it and how effective is it?
That's a very good question. So especially now that vaccines is a hot topic, a lot of people have their reservation about vaccines, having side effects, about, just general concerns about vaccines. And I definitely share and I understand those concerns that people have, because, if you're not in the healthcare field or if you don't have exposure to this, it's something to be worried about, something to want to know more. But HPV vaccine has actually been around for a while. It's been tried and tested. The first study that they actually did after people started, the US, for example, started recommending HPV vaccines in 2006. When this study was done, it showed that for the teens that got this vaccine, there was 80% reduction in HPV infections. So I'm no statistician, I'm not like a math guru, but when you hear 80%, that's a very high number. 80% of anything, that means that it's really effective, So if it's able to cure 80% of HPV virus, imagine how many cases of cervical cancer can be reduced. So that vaccine is very effective. It's been tried and tested. It depends on when you take it, there are different schedules. So it's recommended actually for younger children. So 11, 12 is when it's recommended, because the thinking is you want to get this vaccine before you even have any exposure to sex, before you start having sex or anything like that. So that way your body has gotten the vaccine, your body has formed a memory and is able to fight it even if you're having sex like 10 years later, 12 years later. So it's actually recommended earlier. So for kids that get it earlier, it's a 2-dose series. If you're in the US, it's part of the childhood vaccine series that I recommended for parents. So if you're getting them when you're much older, the vaccine age has actually been extended to 45 for women. So it used to be 26 before, but now it's extended to 45. But then again, it would depend. If you're married and you're with your husband, I won't really be like, go get HPV vaccine, because I'm hoping you're monogamous, but that's a different story.
You can't say that anymore.
But,
all these things you'll be hearing. But
for everyone else, older adults, 21, 22, 23, 24, it's a 3-dose series. So it's 3 vaccines that you have to take to be able to complete the series, basically.
Awesome. Thank you. I see that you answered somebody's question when they asked, when should you get the first HPV vaccine? My daughter got vaccinated at 12 years old.
That's great.
That. And then someone said, what if someone who has never had sex get cervical cancer?
Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard in the beginning part when I talked about it, that there are certain genetic dispositions that can, cause cancer, those cannot be avoided, like family lines, mutations happen spontaneously, unfortunately, that make people get cancer. A lot of times when people get cancer, it's basically unexplained. So in that small percentage, it's possible that you haven't had sex and you can still get cancer. But like I mentioned, 8% of the cases are actually caused by HPV virus. So that's why we're pushing for the awareness and talking more about it, because if we can prevent HPV, we're able to prevent more of the cases of cervical cancer.
Yes. Speaking of awareness, I feel like the more like modernized country, they've been able to push push the vaccine more, and there's been a huge decline in the rate of HPV. Now let's look at like other countries that are not as modernized, like Africa and stuff. And with the epidemiology that I read earlier, it was mainly pertaining to like Africa. A lot of people like, you know, dying, and it affecting us a lot. So the problem is HPV can be difficult to get in some low income. The vaccine can be difficult to get in some low income countries where access to cervical cancer screening and prevention services are almost non existent. Any advice how this individual can go about acquiring the vaccine and getting the screening test, Sandra?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And, you know, like many things, that's a big concern for third world countries like Nigeria, for example. Like I mentioned earlier here, like the vaccine is available. Most people have insurance. It's covered. You know, it's easier to advocate for it in, you know, here where you go to the hospital, it's easier to get it, boom, boom, boom. But when you start talking about places where, I mean, it's not as available, it's not as talked about, then it's a completely different issue, which is why I really started pushing for it through my Cervic Story, which is my advocacy platform. Thankfully, it's actually becoming more and more, you know, there are clinics coming up more and more that are actually doing this. There are setting clinics in Lagos that I know, for example, that I work with often, that, you know, they have, like, for example, on Fridays, they do free pap smears, they do free, you know, HPV vaccine. So I have a working list that I have been making. So if any of you on here have like any questions, or if you're in Nigeria, if you know someone in Nigeria that wants to get a pap smear, wants to get an HPV vaccine, and they don't even know where to start looking, definitely send me a message. You can get my contact from Diola. You can follow me on Instagram, my Cervic Story. I'm constantly posting this information because I feel like that is definitely a struggle back home, trying to get this information out, because it's not available everywhere to get this vaccine. But there are definitely clinics that are popping up every day, and I do have a working list, and I'm very happy to share it with anyone that needs that information, because, you know, it's easy to talk about things, but then when you talk about it and you don't give solutions, then, you know, it doesn't really make a difference. So you guys can definitely contact me. I have contact with several locations in Lagos that you can get pap smears or screening and HPV vaccine at.
Yes, thank you so much. And Sandra, I think it's very amazing what you're doing. This is something that should not be overlooked in especially Africa. It's sad because it's preventable, yet people are dying from it. And that is just really sad. So it's truly an inspiration for you to take on this and just go ahead and, you know, be advocating for this. It's very important. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are here learning a lot. So you guys give it up for Sandra because she's killing it. Yeah, the things that are important to us in like Africa, they don't really, you know, they're just stealing money, but we're not going to talk about it. That's another day. That is another day. We're not going to talk about that. But yes, guys. So finally, Doug, so you've done amazing so far. I just wanted to ask you, tell us why you feel it's so important for people to take this seriously. Do you mind telling us why?
So, like we've been talking about all day, how like we are the advocates of our health. So we have doctors and nurses and whatever it is that might be able to help you and guide you. But at the end of the day, it's your health and it's your life. So you should be advocating for it, you know. The pap smears, the vaccine, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're on top of your health. HPV can be prevented. Everyone should know about this. Males can get HPV, women can get HPV. So we should be finding ways to make sure we're preventing this. Cervical cancer can absolutely be prevented. You know, our goal with, I work with other people that are cervical cancer advocates, and our goal is to make sure that in coming years, even our children might not even have to hear about cervical cancer, because it's so amazing the things that getting the vaccines can do. So I will continue to advocate for it. Men and women should be taking responsibility. Even though men don't get cervical cancer, they are able to spread HPV, and, you know, we both should be taking responsibility for this. We should be advocates for our health and know that when it comes to diseases that can be prevented, we should absolutely be doing what we can do to prevent it, which is why I think it's so important to keep talking about it. Even if it's one or two people that hear it every day, that's one more person than yesterday that has this new information that they can probably spread to someone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I got my HPV vaccine. How about you,
Yes,
Sandra?
of course.
we
Ah,
would we wouldn't tell you guys to get
of
something
course.
that we wouldn't do. So we really urge you guys, and if you have friends that needs to know about this that's not on here, refer them to Sandra. You can follow her at LexiFab, and she also has a page called My Cervix Story, where she posts a lot of great content on HPV, and her goal is to just create awareness regarding this disease state. So, guys, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start taking your questions. And yes, and don't forget, guys, if you guys um, engage, we get to Dr. Sandra will pick a winner. So y'all need to make her laugh, smile, impress her.
It's easy, don't worry. To make me laugh
Yes,
is easy.
yes. Thank you, Steve. Steve said, repping UIC CLB.
Hi, Steve. Thank
Yes, hi, Steve. Hi.
you.
Let's see. Someone said, is it compulsory to get the vaccine and pap smear at the same time?
Okay, that's a good question. So, I talked about before the scheduling of the vaccine versus the pap smear. The vaccine is for male and female. I didn't even know if I mentioned that. Well, both sexes should be getting the vaccine, but the pap smear is for only female. So, depending on you, if you're depending on your age, for example, if you're a younger person and you didn't get it while you were younger, and you're still, out there, you're not married yet, or whatever it is, you can still get the vaccine. Um, the pap smear has the different schedule. So, like I said, after age 25, you should start getting a pap smear, and that should be every 3 years, depending on your clinical picture. So, I mean, I'm not saying today you get the vaccine and today you get the pap smear. So it just depends on like what you want to do. If you just want to get the pap smear just to see how, make sure that the cells in your cervix are doing okay, then that should be fine too.
Yes. So like the vaccine, it's depending on your age, it's a two or a 3 dose series and you're done. But the pap smear, it's just like continuously that you have to
Correct.
keep getting every 3 years. Thank you so much, Sandra. Let's pick on the next question. Does the vaccine bring immunity?
Yes. So just like every vaccine out there, the goal is that when you get that vaccine, your body is able to recognize the virus. So if in future, in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, if you ever exposed to that virus, your body would have gotten, your body would have known how to fight it. So immunity is basically your body knows how to fight the virus when it comes. So when you get that vaccine early on, before you actually get exposed, if you do get exposed to it, your body's able to fight it, and then it's not able to cause an infection to you or make you get sick or even progress to cervical cancer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's take on the next question. If you don't have HPV, can you get cervical cancer from any other means, especially if someone in your family had it? I think you already answered this, but you can just give them a little bit of.
Yeah, I did touch on it, but there's a little part of the population based on genetics that could get cervical cancer or any kind of cancer, depending on their family genetics or if someone in their family had it. So that's the unfortunate part of it. Genetics does play a role in getting different kinds of cancer. So if someone in your family has had cervical cancer, chances are as a female, you might get it. So that's another reason you should be on top of your pap smears, because that's the only way you can address and see changes in the cells before they actually progress to cancer.
Early detection is key. Early detection is
Took
key.
the words right out of my mouth.
Yes. Don't wait till it gets,
No.
That's what they try to do. Detect it early before it gets to stage 4 or stage 3. Let's see. Someone said, does the vaccine last 3 years?
So the HPV vaccine is you get it and it's done. So it's just a one-time thing. Depending on the schedule, if your child is getting it earlier on, for example, they get the 2 vaccine doses and it's done forever. If you're much older and you get the 3 doses, it's done. You don't have to repeat it like for example, the flu shot here that you have to get every year. It's not like that. So once you get that 3 series and it's complete as an adult, that's all you have to take, and you don't have to worry about taking it continuously. The pap smear is what a female should be doing every 3 years, because you're growing, things are changing, your cervix is changing, the cells are changing, and that's the only way to track those changes.
Absolutely. Gracias, Dr. Sarah. Let's see. They said, what is the rate of cervical cancer in the world?
So right now, the numbers are over 500,000 cases yearly. So the last time they did the population census was in 2018, and it was over 500 cases. So to me, 500,000 cases. So to me, that's a lot of people because it can be prevented, you know. People die from it. So when people have cervical cancer and they don't find out on time, young people, 26, 27, 28, the death rate is very early. If they don't die, they end up having to lose their uterus because they have to take it out to prevent the spread of the disease. So 500,000 sounds like a lot for something that can be prevented, you know.
And this rate also, Dr. Sandra, it's sad because it's mainly in Africa. It's mainly prevalent in Africa because we're not
talking about it.
We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it.
That's basically what it is.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. What is the biggest risk of cervical cancer? What do you mean risk? Like, do you mean the complications?
Well, I can. Is it the things that can cause cervical cancer? Maybe that's what this person is asking.
Yeah, like what puts you at risk for it? Maybe we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what puts you at risk for cervical cancer? The biggest risk is HPV. Once a person gets HPV, that is the highest risk. So, like I said, there are different strains of HPV. You might not get the strain of HPV that causes cervical cancer, but there's no way to know which strain a person will get, which is why we should be preventing getting HPV in the first place. You know, that's the biggest number one risk of cervical cancer is HPV.
I'm gonna yell. I'm gonna whisper something. Use protection.
Oh.
Use protection. Yes,
it's very simple.
People don't be liking to do the right thing, you know. It's always a God save us. Yes, He's the one looking. He's the one looking over us. He's the one looking over us. Can the vaccine? Can the vaccinated person still carry and transmit HPV? Good question.
That's actually a very good question. There's two things that come to mind when a person asks me this question. The first thing is, did the person have HPV before they got the vaccine? Because I know of people that get HPV vaccines later on without finding out, doing HPV tests or finding out if they have HPV, and they actually go on to get HPV. So that's the first thing that comes in mind. Did you check did you do a HPV test to find out if you had HPV before you took the vaccine? Another thing that comes to mind is the chances are very, very slim because, like I mentioned, the efficacy of the HPV vaccine is over 80%. Maybe you're at that 20% that the vaccine doesn't work for. You know, in everything, in every treatment, in every, you know, there's always a chance that of not 100%. So there are a slim chance of people that might get the vaccine and it might not be as effective for them based on different things. Maybe your health status, maybe your immune system is already compromised in the first place. But the studies did show that over 80% of people that do get the vaccine are prevented from getting HPV. And if you don't get HPV, there's no way you can spread it, basically.
Awesome. Thank you so much, doctor. Let's see. Let's take on, someone said, does cervical cancer cause infertility?
Wow, that's a good question. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, your cervix for a woman is basically the ending of your uterus. It's where the baby comes out from. It plays a very, very vital role in childbearing and giving birth to a baby. Many times when people get cervical cancer, depending on the stage, the last resort is to have to take out the cervix. And when that happens, it's basically taking out a part of your uterus. And that automatically, depending on the person, can cause infertility. So, your uterus is where the baby lives, is where your baby is nourished. So if a part of it is taken out, it can definitely cause problems in childbearing. You know, there are other ways out there right now that a person that might have had cervical cancer and had to take the uterus out can have kids. But that's definitely a good point. Having cervical cancer can lead to changes or can lead to procedures that might need your uterus to be taken out, and that might cause definitely infertility.
Again, early detection is key.
That's key.
Yes. Dr. Sandra, we are done answering all of the questions, and I just want to say this was so educative. You did an awesome job, guys. Tell her she did an awesome job. Tell her she killed it.
You did an awesome job too, Dad.
No, thank you. It was so educative, and I hope everybody learned a thing or two from this. Do tell your friends about cervical cancer. Follow Dr. Sandra. Follow my cervix story. You guys are we are, like, right now we have 20 people watching the show. But if you guys spread the word, you can get to 100 people, 200 people. So that's very important. The goal is to make sure that people are aware, especially in the lower income countries, like Africa, where it's mainly prevalent. So please, guys, share the word. Dr. Sandra, salute. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So yes. So I'm gonna have you right now go ahead and pick our 2 winners that you believe that. See, some of them they'll be like Dr. Sandra, pick me up. But I mean, I don't know if you were paying attention, but if you could just
there was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people. It was a lot of people.
I don't want to.
There
was so many people.
You're so cute.
It's so hard to pick.
I know. You got this. Just think about the people that you saw the most, like the people that were participating the most, the ones that were engaged in that.
I'm gonna scroll through this thing.
Absolutely.
Because there was so many people.
Okay,
let me see. I think this person, Nasir Abdul.
Oh yeah.
I think that person he was actually here the whole time.
He was. Nasir was here. Yes.
Yeah. So that's gonna be my first person.
Yes.
Thank you,
Nasir. Congratulations,
thank you everyone for being here. So I'm just gonna say that first off, and then let me see the next person. Do not put me on the spot, y'all. Find this person. I love y'all equally, though.
Oh,
let me just say that. Okay. Who else? So I need to give everyone gifts. That way, everyone is happy.
I'm just kidding. But
I think Forever Miriam.
Yes. I agree. I think those 2 were definitely very active. Look at Ini. He's like, Miriam was active. Everybody's saying Miriam. Oh, they chose Miriam for you. Okay.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Yes. Well, thank you guys. Miriam and Nasir, you guys just won the gift. Go ahead and DM me, and I will be sending you some awesome gifts through. We want to thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you,
we
guys.
had an awesome time. Hope you guys had an awesome time too. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.